y'all, welcome back to another episode of the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Dobbs, and we are so excited to have you joining us on the pod today. If you don't know what this podcast, company, everything, this platform is all about, is to do your best and be your best no matter what, no matter where, and to know that any position you're in has impact and purpose. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, as always. And to help us do that, we have an incredible guest. Her name is Madelynn Birdwell. And Madelynn is awesome, y'all. She is an entrepreneur, a former college athlete, also has a history of concussions like yours truly, and she has a really awesome episode today talking all about what she does called Cookies for College. What started to help her pay for her college has become a booming business in Texas, and it's the coolest thing to watch from afar. So I'm here to tell her story today and have her tell her story today, but also talk about a history of injuries and being a college athlete and being a Christian and trusting God and taking bold steps of faith while pursuing being a business owner and doing a million other things at the same time, getting married, being engaged, a lot of other stuff as well. So y'all, this is a really special story. It's also very special because we recorded this what seems like nearly a year ago, but Madelynn went through a lot more suffering with her concussion and dealing with healing her brain. And so we actually delayed the release of this podcast so that she could get healthy, or at least to a healthier standpoint, so that when this did launch, she could share it, she could listen, she could watch, and she could really also hopefully be poured into by it. I think so often when we record these episodes, it ends up being the episode that we need to hear as a host or as a guest. And so I believe that this is being released in the perfect timing, whether it's the perfect timing for you, for Madelynn, for myself, for any listener, whatever it may be. For some reason right now, here at the end of August is going to be the perfect timing that this episode is released. But y'all, another special thing about this episode today is that it is our last episode of season 4. Wild. How did we get to this point? I have no idea. Wait, that's not even correct. This is the last episodes of season 3, y'all. You can tell where my mind is at. We are approaching season 4, which is crazy. I have no idea how that happened so quickly, but we are just so grateful for you guys for listening. And so I don't want to say too much more because I know it's my longer intro than usual. But y'all, this is an awesome episode coming at you in just a few seconds. So enjoy today's episode. I'm so excited to have Madelynn on and grateful for her to share her story and her heart with us. She is a doll, a ball of joy, and a sweetheart, and y'all are going to see that and listen to that. Just a reminder that we are more than a podcast, so feel free to find us on Instagram, on social media, online. Everything is linked below, so you can not only listen to the podcast or watch the podcast on YouTube and Spotify, but you can also tune in to our retreats. We just had a pickleball play date, took over South Miami Pickleball Park. It was so much fun. Those are like monthly-ish. Stay tuned for November's. It's going to be super fun. We're probably going to do pickleball again because everyone raved about it. So that's coming. We also have a book and book number 2 coming out. We also have speaking engagements. I preach a lot and speak a lot to different groups and colleges. So if you want me to come out to you, feel free to email us at playwhereyourfeetar@gmail.com. We have merchandise, y'all, so much more. So we are more than just a podcast. We want to meet you wherever you need us. So book, podcast, speaking engagements, camps. I do a lot of volleyball camps for anyone and everyone, from private lessons to organized camps for your high school, your club, or just in general at a rec facility. I love you guys, though. Thank you for being amazing listeners. Without further ado, this is our last episode of season 3, and this is Madelynn Birdwell. Enjoy. This is the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast, and I'm your host, Cameron Dobbs. Madelynn Birdwell, welcome to the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited and so honored to be joining you today.
Oh my goodness, we are so happy to have you on the show. This is so fun. We've been DMing a ton, messaging back and forth in prep for this, and I'm already just so excited because I feel like you're so joyful, you're so bubbly, you're so amazing. So I just know that's going to radiate through the show to all of our listeners, and I know they're going to enjoy this conversation as much as we are, for sure.
I love it.
Amazing. Okay. Well, Madeline, tell me what's up right now in your life. What are you up to? We're recording this August 17th. Who knows when it'll actually air yet? But what's going on? You're almost or you're over halfway through August. What's your life looking like right now?
Just crazy. So right now I've actually put cookies on pause because I am working on opening up a bakery. And so going from in-home kitchen to brick and mortar, starting classes next week, just started a part-time job to help pay for the cookie shop and for school. And so married, loving life, and it is 110 degrees in South Texas as we speak.
Oh my goodness. So you're not busy at all, basically, right?
So lots of free time. Lots of free time. You can always sleep later.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's hit one thing at a time. So let our listeners know, where do you go to school?
So, I was homeschooled in high school, and currently I'm at Laterno University in Longview, Texas. Stingo.
Amazing. Are you born and raised in Texas?
Born and raised in Texas. So Harlingen, Texas, the very bottom of Texas. So yeah.
Love. And you're married, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Married
when did you get married?
October 22nd, 2022. So
Recently. How's married life treating you?
I absolutely love it. I tell people all the time, like, you really understand, like, when the Bible talks about marriage as a blessing, like, once you get married, you really see how that is a gift from God and such a true blessing. And so, lots of communication, lots of listening, but I've really enjoyed every minute of it. It's so much fun.
I love it. This is not at all the topic of this podcast, but I'm going to ask you because we got you here. What is your best advice to singles? Because I myself am single as a Pringle. So, what is your best advice to singles?
I would say two things. I think enjoy that time because it's such a short time period of time, and now it may seem like forever and you're just so ready to jump into that next stage of dating and engagement and marriage, but like once you're there, that's forever. In a way, just focus on you, but also focus on your friendships, your relationship with God and your family without, I don't want to say any other distractions, but with any other commitments. And so just be, as we say, play where your feet are, be present where you are, right? And enjoy that time period because it is so short when you look at the entirety of your life. And so that would be my first thing. And then the second thing is like, don't force it. And you see
Mm.
like so many people looking, and then you hear so many stories of where people are just present and waiting, like in their relationship with God. And that's when He brings someone. And so I was not looking when God brought me my husband whatsoever and was still like, wait, I don't know about this. And then here we are today. So,
Oh my goodness. Okay, we're literally just 4 minutes into the podcast and already so much wisdom coming from you. So I'm going to ask you one more question on the topic, then we'll move forward. What has been the biggest lesson you've learned in marriage so far?
mm, I realized this during engagement, but I really stress it. And there's sometimes like people aren't sure how they feel about this, but I don't think that love is an emotion, love is action. And so when you look biblically, there's no words of like love feels good, love is happy, like love is all these like butterflies in your stomach, like that comes from those actions of serving someone and loving someone. And so I think just realizing that one, it's 100% and 100%, not 50-50, and then realizing that the love requires actions. It's serving someone and it's those action words as it talks about in First Corinthians. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, so good. If you have not read Love Does by Bob Goff,
Oh, I have.
20 out of 10. Oh my goodness. 20 out of 10 recommend. It's so good. It's exactly what you just said, how love does. Like love is a verb, love is an action. And Bob Goff is one of my favorite writers. And so I recommend that to anyone, especially if you're just like looking to get into reading. That's an incredible book. He is such a good storyteller. It's so fun. It's an easy read and you will learn a ton. So that's your homework, Madeline. In addition to all your schoolwork, that's your homework.
My reading list right now. Amazon cart, here I come.
Yes, there we go. Okay, awesome. So let's keep going here. Madeline and I actually got connected through Instagram. We love our social media connections. So my friend Maya May, who has been on the podcast before, listeners know she was our season 2 finale episode. She's a sweet dear friend of mine. And Maya May, I don't know if you know her personally or not, but she had shared I believe, your post about cookies for college. And I saw it because I obviously follow her and was just like, whoa, what is this? Like, this is so cool. And so just like casually clicked on your page and then looked a little bit more, read a little bit more, learned a little bit more, saw you a former athlete and just all the things. And I was like, this girl is so cool. Like I need, and to have a business for this purpose and everything about it, more than anything, I was just like, I need to learn more. Because I know it glimpses from social media, but I was like, I need to learn more and how I can support and how I can share this. And of course, my brain immediately goes into, let's get her on the show. Let's get her on the podcast. So that's what we're doing today. We talked a little beforehand, so she's on now. But Madelynn, again, I really want this to just be an awesome platform for you, but I also want to learn a lot about you too. So at the same time here, let's get into it. Give us all a little bit of background for you. So whether it's like, you mentioned you grew up, born and raised in South Texas, where you're from, growing up, what that life looked like and everything, what brought you to college, basketball, life, faith, testimony, injury, everything. Let's just get into it. So I'll give you the mic and you can take it away.
Do it. Thank you. So, born and raised in Harlingen, Texas. People say South Texas is San Antonio. Y'all keep going 4 more hours and you're there. Right before you hit Mexico. So, born and raised in Harlingen, super proud. I'm the oldest of 8. And so my family decided to adopt 5 kids at once when I was 12 years old. So talk about growing up quick. And so it has been a journey, and you can see God throughout it. There's been good times and there's been hard times. There's been moments of, God, why did this happen? To where you see those glimpses of where a couple of those kids have accepted Christ and you're like, this is why it's happened. And so that's a little bit of being the oldest. I played basketball since I was 5 or 6, I think, and love it. I miss it so much. And growing up, I remember I was 4th grade in the Boys and Girls Club, because where else do you play basketball starting out? And I was like, I want to play college basketball so I can be a witness, because I remember hearing so many stories as a little kid. That's a very different group of girls and sometimes live a very different lifestyle. And so I remember 4th grade, I was like, I'm going to play college basketball. And then reality hits. I'm like, I'm homeschooled. How is that going to happen? And so, because every year was a new coach, it was a new place you were practicing. You never knew if there was going to be a team the next year. Was definitely that kid that took it way too serious and cried and did not understand when my teammates were laughing if we lost. I'm like, this is not okay. This is not a game. This is a game. And so, yeah, then fast forward to high school, got blessed with so many great opportunities with playing with a high school down here during the summer. 2 different high schools, trained at a couple different programs, had great experiences there as well. And then again, senior year hits and I was like, what am I going to do? No one knows about me. At this point, I had just gotten a coach senior year who actually took stats and videoed my games. So, as an athlete, like having that film in high school is so important for them to see your growth and what you can do. And I had 1 season, 12 games, and I was like, all right, I guess this isn't going to happen. There's no way it can happen. And was really wrestling all of senior year. Do I pursue this? How do I pursue this? I don't even know how to go about this. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. Maybe God isn't calling me to do it. I'm not going to play. And then my coach messaged me that exact same night and be like, hey, have you looked at online recruiting? I said, I didn't even know that was a thing. And so I looked it up. It was an investment, and I talked to my parents. I was like, all right, I'll pay half if you pay half. And so we sat down, made that decision. This was spring break of 2021. Oh, no, sorry, 2019. That was 2021 was COVID. 2019 spring break, sat down, and we were like, all right, let's do this. Signed up for it. 2 weeks later, on a college road trip around Texas, like looking at schools, so humbled, so in shock, so overwhelmed. Let's be honest. I went from, I'm not going to college, to, oh my goodness, I'm touring all these colleges to see where I want to play, deciding on a college, and 2 weeks later taking the ACT for the first time. And so It was a whirlwind of 3 weeks. And again, just seeing where God played a huge part in all of it, where every time I said, no, I don't know, God opened another door that I just could not argue with. And so I didn't know how to verbalize it then, but a few years ago, a few years ago with my injury, I really, and with my business, I just realized like, who am I to say no to God out of fear of failure? And so who am I to say no to him because of fear of my own inadequacy, fear of like, what will other people think of me? Will people like me? Will I do well? Will I succeed? Like, who am I to say no? And so just went forward full force. And August of 2019, drove 8 hours away and started my journey at Laterno University. So, but yeah, and freshman year is always a learning experience. Really got to know the girls a lot, a big culture shock in a lot of ways. Again, I was homeschooled and I wouldn't say I was sheltered because I did 4-H, I was involved in church, I did basketball, traveling basketball, but there's a lot of different things I was not exposed to until I went to the college level. So learning to navigate that. And as I tell, other Christians when they ask how I handled controversial topics and other stuff like that pertaining my faith, I say I feel like too often Christians want to speak first before they listen. And so instead of saying like what I believe or what I think is right, I would honestly just sit down and say, well, I don't understand. How do you feel? Like, explain to me where you're coming from. And so freshman year, just tying it back into fourth grade, wanting to be a witness to my team, freshman year was really forming that trust. As I said, like tilling ground. I wasn't quite planting seeds yet. I was just tilling the ground, earning that trust, and getting those relationships formed. Was able to take a few girls to church, which that was always fun. And just every Saturday after practice, I'm like, hey, I'm going tomorrow if you want to go. And so, you know, some girls went, some girls didn't. And so that was always fun. And then sophomore year, that was an insane year because that's when COVID hit. Oh no, COVID hit my spring of my freshman year, So that was crazy. I remember thinking like, oh, I hope we get one more week of spring break. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, no, no more weeks of spring break, come back. And so what a crazy time. And that fall, I was really wrestling with, do I want to go back and play? I really don't want something shoved up my nose 2 times, like several times a week. Games are being canceled. And I just did not have a feeling of peace about it. And I think that was the biggest thing. And so again, God always answers our prayers. I did a post about that the other day. Is like, it may not be in our timing or definitely how we don't think it's going to be answered, but he hears us and he answers. And so in a way I did not expect to be answered, a week before I had to decide, I've nannied this family for 7 years. Those 3 boys are my kids. Their family's like my second family. And I was like really praying. I was like, God, I just need a clear sign. Like, am I going to stay or am I going to go? And he answered that. There was no hesitation. And got a phone call that afternoon because thankfully I had the boys and their mom was in the hospital because she had a seizure. Next thing we know, she has a brain tumor and then brain cancer all in 2 days. And I was like, I met with them that night when she got back home from the hospital. I'm like, I am here for y'all. I will move in with y'all. I'm not going to school. And that was my answer to prayer, even though not how I wanted it answered, but clear peace of mind. And I was like, I know what I'm supposed to do. And so again, just another crazy year of change. And so a few weeks later, I moved in with them, nannying full time, helping as she's recovering from surgery. I started online classes, still putting in 40 to 60 hours with my cookies because this is when it was really taking off because it was my first time home. And so, and I continued training twice a day. Mornings was weights and evenings was training with my high school coach. I was like, got to get ready for next year. Because thankfully my coach was super understanding. They're like, family first, what God is calling you to do. They're like, you have a spot on the team when you come back. And so I was like, all right, God, I'm here. I'm present. I'm playing where my feet are in South Texas. I'm not playing, but I'm here. And so junior year was a lot like your junior year, which I found so crazy to find out. And I mean, I was coming back hungry, ready to play. That had been the first year since I was 6 years old I had not played or like
Wow.
competitively played a basketball game. So I was hungry, ready to get back on that court, ready to get playing time, ready to prove myself. And day one of practice, we're going through drills, and freshman me could never complete that drill. I was like, this is my year. I'm going to do this drill, going to get it right the first time. And that was the end of my basketball career.
Wow.
And so it was a rebounding drill, dove for the loose ball. And as I knew, you can't let go till they blow the whistle. And I knew I was going to hit the floor, but I figured my shoulder would catch it more. And so my head made contact with the floor first. And then as it whipped up, the girl I was blocking out, she fell on top of my neck and head, slammed it back into the ground, and rolled over me. And so I immediately could feel like, okay, something is not right. That did not feel good. And so again, with volleyball, you know, as a team, you're quick to go rush, help someone up. And so they jerk me up and my head whips back again. And I was just like teary eyed because it hurt, but I didn't know what was wrong yet. And so I think I actually had one more girl. I think that happened on the second because there was 3 girls. I was like, I'm gonna finish. I got this. Finished, did that next girl, and I was like, okay, something is not right. And within 5 minutes, I couldn't hold up my head. I couldn't feel my teeth. Like my whole lower half of my face had gone numb. And I was like you, in tears in the training room, like, this is my year. Like, why is this happening, God? And but at that point we really thought we were more worried about my neck and my spine, and that's what we thought the injury was. So I didn't even get tested for a concussion and was still doing sideline workouts, not understanding why am I so nauseous and dizzy and out of breath. And 3 weeks later I bombed the concussion test. I mean, the placement test, I placed it at like 93 to like 97%. It was 13%. It was I didn't even know you could score that low. I didn't even know that was possible. And I was like, oh, okay, that changes things. And so then you're for sure sidelined, no workouts. But every week with that hope of like, okay, I can take another test. I'll be good this week. And so from practice started in October, and from October to January, that's really what it was like, maybe this next week is my week. Maybe this next week is my week. Maybe I can finally play. And failed test after failed test. We had so many different appointments trying to figure out if my jaw was okay, my neck was okay. And so it was a very emotional, frustrating, overwhelming time of like, God, this is what I felt called to do. Why am I hurt? Why is this happening to me? Why can't I just play? Like, why can't I just play? And I remember in December, because at this point, the symptoms of the concussion had really hit to where it's like constant headaches, brain fog, can't focus in the classroom, can't remember. And I've never struggled with my grades, and I was failing tests, and I was just beside myself with embarrassment and so frustrated. And I remember in December, I was honestly really angry with God. We were having conversation. I was like, why did this happen? And I remember like this sense of like comfort in a way, and then peace that followed is like, just because you don't have to play to be a witness to your team. And I was like, you're right. He's always right. He's always right. But I really, in that moment, I was like, you're right. How, and that was when it really switched for me. And don't get me wrong, I still struggled emotionally and mentally, giving up, like knowing that was the end, right? I knew my junior year was my last year. I was getting married the next year. And so I knew this was going to be my last chance to play. And there was still a lot of wrestling with that and knowing I wouldn't be able to play. But just that understanding, I took on a different attitude when it came to that, because I was like, how can I be a witness to team through my actions and how I'm handling this situation and still show Christ with that? And so it went from, oh, woe is me, pity party, which it still is sometimes, but really trying to like be honest with the girls when I was having a hard time, but also trying to be positive and showing like this is God's plan and God's timing. And so, yeah, that was crazy. And so just like you, junior year, I remember I was like, well, if I'm going to go on this podcast, I'm like, I want to learn a little bit about her and listen to some of these and see how they flow. And I literally had so many chills and my mouth dropped because I was like, someone understands. Someone understands like the heartache and the attachment and the identity and everything. And then also it's like an unseen injury. It's you're not bruised, you're not broken, you can't see it. You look fine on the outside, but on the inside it's constant like pain and confusion is the best way. It's living a life of confusion and distraction, but you look and sound normal. And so I remember like being like, oh my goodness, she understands. Just crazy. It was both junior year. But yes, that's a little bit about me is basketball, oldest of 8, Rio Grande Valley, and I bake cookies for a living.
So beautiful. Let me just thank you first and foremost for sharing so much of your story and just going into the details for us. It really is crazy. Like that's the best way to describe too how we've gotten connected and how our stories are so similar, like you've mentioned. And it's just like that's all God. That's literally all God. Like the fact that you don't even know my MA, but she shared your page, and then I clicked on your page, and then I read about you, and then like DM'd you, and it's just insane. Like when I messaged you, I had no idea about any of your testimony besides that, like you said, you had played in college and that you baked cookies for a living. And so I'm like, that's a cool story. Let's get her on the show. And then you DM'd me more and you were like, wait, we have the same story. So just so crazy. So cool how God is like that, how he's going to put exactly who you need in your life when you need them. And it's just so perfectly placed, and it can only be orchestrated by him. So I think that just you being on the podcast and us meeting is such a divine thing. So I'm so delighted. Yeah, so delighted to have you on. And I loved one thing you said, who am I to say no to God? And it's so true. Like, who are we to shut down God's ideas? Like, are you kidding me? Whatever he says go, like, I better go, because to this day, like, he has always and forever known more than me, done better than I have. He has planned better than I have. Like, his plan A, B, C, D, E, whatever is still going to be better than my plan A, like at the end of the day. And so one thing that you have said yes to and run full speed into is, like you said, cooking cookies for a living. And so you have a company called Cookies for College. You've mentioned a little bit in the timing of it that you're transitioning now to having that brick and mortar whole bakery, which is so exciting. But before we get into the bakery itself, let's go back to what has Cookies for College been? What is that, and what's the inspiration behind starting that?
Yes. So I've always been an entrepreneur since I was 6. And everything, I guess, starts when I'm 6. But that's just, I guess, whenever I can remember things.
All the best ideas.
All the best ideas happen as a 6-year-old. And so I remember my mom I actually got not in trouble, but got a talking to because I was selling bracelets to my Sunday school teachers. And my mom was like, you can't sell things at church.
He's pimping out the church. Oh my goodness, just like the Bible.
Oh, she's like, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, mom, I didn't know. And so, but I really started then. And so all of elementary and middle school, I was selling bracelets, and I would sew purses and notebooks and cards and stuff like that. And then for high school, it was babysitting, which I still consider that like entrepreneur, your own job, because you don't technically have a boss or coworkers. You're setting your schedule, you're really marketing yourself. And then continue to do different things through that. And then I remember after I graduated high school, and again, like it was where I wasn't going to college. All of a sudden, I am going to college at a private school. And I was like, how am I going to pay for this? And so I did not want student loans. I did not want to go into debt. Super blessed. And my dad said they would cover my first 2 years. But at the same time, I was like, that's a lot of money when you think of room and board, living expenses while you're on campus. Because let's be honest, we need our coffee. And so coffee and gas is what we live off of, I feel like. And so I was like, how can I help and how can I contribute? So we were sitting at the kitchen island, and I was just throwing out ideas, and I was buying books at that time. I was like, oh, brownies for books. That's kind of funny. And I was like, wait, cookies for college. I was like, this may actually work. And I was like, nah, that's not going to go anywhere. And finally, I like kind of let it sit for a couple ideas or a couple of weeks. And then I reached out to a local farmers market. It's called Wild August Farmers Market, and run by the best people. They've been literally my supporters since day one. And I was like, this is kind of my idea. What do you think? Can I come try it out and set up? And they said, yeah, come on out. Let's do this. And so I said, okay. I was like, well, I'm just gonna do it. And so I went to HEB, our local grocery store, and I went to Hobby Lobby, and I was like, all right, if I don't buy the stuff, I'm not gonna do it. I'm a procrastinator. It is my weakness. I'm getting better at it. And I was like, let's just do it. And so I started with 4 flavors, a little chalkboard sign. They were I packaged them in like French fry slips. And so it was like these little white slips where you could put the cookies in. And I had like little napkins in a basket, and people could just come and get them. And I was like, let's just see where it goes. And really quick, I realized that people were drawn to the name and the idea of it. They were like, they could care less what the cookies were, how they tasted. They were just like, wow, you're doing this to pay for your college. And they're like, how cool is that? So within 6 weeks, I was able to raise enough to pay for all my books. Well, I don't want to say raise, kind of raise, but like, sell enough cookies to pay for all of my books, to support myself while I was living off campus. So all my food and everything, and to pay for my dorm stuff. So all the covers and fans and all that fun stuff. And which that was my goal, because I was like, okay, I don't want to be too unrealistic of a goal, but I want to try and at least cover all the expenses besides tuition and housing to help out my parents. And so that just really kind of sparked it. And I call it my cookie community. And so just really cool to see how the community on here really supported and loved this idea. And so next year, COVID hits, and I really had to pivot and figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? Because farmers markets were still essential. So they were open sometimes, but also received a lot of backlash for being open. So it was really hit or miss. And so that's when I started doing non-contact like deliveries. And so I would tell people to put the cash or the check under their doormat, and I would put the box on their doormat, and I would knock, and I would run to the car.
Ding dong ditch.
Ding dong ditch. I love that. That's so funny. And so that's how I really pivoted. And then again, just realizing, okay, if I'm only doing deliveries and not markets, how am I going to keep people buying every week or wanting to buy every week? So then we started a rotating menu. So every single week we would have 8 new flavors. And so we went from just 4 original flavors to forming my own recipe and 8 new flavors every single week throughout the summer. And so that was, and still baking out of my house, staying up super late, trying to get this all done, learning how to package for orders and maintain all that. Just had gotten social media for the first time. So as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, learning social media was very amusing because never had it before, wasn't planning on getting it. I was like, well, I need a way to connect and promote myself with the business. So that's when it really started to gain a lot of traction, was that year. And then right before I went to school, I had done enough to, again, pay for myself, all of my stuff, all my dorm things, and then also my 1 semester. And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. And so since I was doing online school and living with the family, I was like, okay, let's put this towards my tuition, and then what can I do to make this bigger and better? And so renovated a room and basically turned it into like a commercial type kitchen. Because I needed more space. I had cookies all over the pantry shelves. I would clear up all the pantry shelves, put down parchment paper and baking the cooling racks, and just have cookies everywhere, covering the dining room table. And they were like, you need space. And I was like, I know I do, but I don't know what to do. And so again, I was so nervous, reinvested that money that was for my semester into this room to make it basically a little home bakery. and was like, all right, God, let's see what happens. I hope this works out. And within 2 months had paid all of that back because we had just been able to produce so many cookies. And so that's when I really realized are people love the idea, they love the brand, but they love the product as well. So I always say the name and the brand stops people and the cookie brings them back for more. And so a cookie with a purpose. And so because you feel good buying it because you know it's helping out someone as well. And so when you really tie into that emotional connection, especially as a seller, you get a lot of return customers, and then they're truly not even customers. It really is, as I say, like a community because they're invested in your story, they're invested in you, and they want to support you. And so junior year is when it really took off. And I was like, I'm going to do this. This is going to pay for my school. And then I was slowly starting to pivot to where, like, after school, what's the name going to be? How am I going to keep doing this? And then, after doing a really big rodeo down here in the valley, I realized again the importance of the name because people would be just walking by the booth and they would stop if they really liked cookies. But then they'd see my sign, and I would see every time they would turn right back around and be like, what is this? What does this mean? And they would buy a ton of cookies because they just wanted to support and they loved the idea. And that's when I realized this could really be something big. And so I stopped trying to change my name and figuring out how to change kind of my business model, I guess you could say, and really focus on my current business model and figuring out how can I continue this after graduation and keep the name. So that's when I decided to offer scholarships through our business to college kids. And so that'll be that. We actually already gave out one scholarship to my first employee last year. And so we gave her a $500 scholarship before she went to school. Such a great experience, so much fun. And after I graduate, starting senior year next week, next week, I will be offering scholarships through my business. And so that's how Cookies for College will keep on going. Dream is multiple locations, shipping, and honestly, we're going to the idea is to work directly with the university. So it's not like a third party scholarship thing to where they have to apply through me. I send them the scholarship, they send it to the campus. So where we're at, playing where our feet are, we're working directly with those universities. And so starting down here at our local one, UTRGV. So when they go on the scholarship page, they'll be able to see Cookies for College. Click it, it'll send the information over to me, and we send the scholarship, and it's directly taken out of their tuition. And so I'm super excited.
Oh my goodness, you are so cool. That is amazing. So cool. And literally every little bit of that. I have so many questions here and I was taking notes as you were going so I wouldn't forget anything because, concussed brains, we forget things all the time. But one thing, yeah, one thing you said too, you talked about the transition of when you were hoping to or trying to figure out, like, should I change the name once I'm done with college? What's going to happen? And it was almost like a deeper, not meaning, but deeper lesson almost in that was you were like, I'm not going to change the name. I'm basically just going to find more purpose. And I think so often we look at ourselves and it's like, how can I change my identity? Like, how can I change myself? How can I do this or that and the other? But it's like, no, like God has created you exactly how you're supposed to be. Like, don't change your identity. Just find more purpose in how you're made and what you do and what you love. And that's exactly what Play Where Your Feet Are is all about. It's playing where your feet are. It's not Susie's or Sally's or Samantha's over in the corner. It's your feet. And so just knowing that, like, God has given me this platform, this personality, like whatever it may be that any of our listeners, like whatever God has gifted you with, for you, it was this incredible business that was popping off called Cookies for College. And he was like, no, like you don't change this, like just keep finding purpose in it. And that's exactly what you're doing. So beautiful. I loved every single minute of that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a real blessing. I love how you said that. Like, don't try and change your identity or change where God has put you and find purpose in that. And I was like, wow, that's like a drop mic. We can end it. We can be done. That's so much. That's so good. So, wow, I love that. That's so great. I'm gonna have to steal that line.
Yeah, it was inspired by you. So for sure, you have full credit to it. My goodness, this is, yeah, go for it. So cool though. Oh my goodness. Okay, continuing all the questions here. Before you started this company, did you bake a ton before, or did this like unlock a brand new you? Like how much did you know about cookies and recipes and all the things?
So I've grown up in the kitchen. I love food, huge foodie, and so always grew up loving to bake and cook and help my mom and my grandma in the kitchen. And so that's where I already had like some basic skills. And honestly, so we had a homeschool group, and so like twice a week, we would have classes once we hit high school and middle school, and they called me Betty Crocker because I would always bring desserts to the classes. I'd be like blonde brownies, and I'd be like chocolate peanut butter pie and all this other type of stuff to class because it just made people happy. Like, who doesn't love something
Oh,
sweet? And then I just enjoy food, brings me joy. And so that's where it really kind of started. So I already had a foundation, but I had no clue. Like, I've learned so much with chilling the dough, creating your own recipe, how like using fresh fruit, because we have a peach cobbler cookie, and so you cannot chill that overnight or it turns into like a biscuit. And so which was so crazy, just all the science behind it. So I was very familiar in the kitchen and grew up baking and cooking, but not necessarily focusing on cookies. And so there was a lot of trial and error, but again, I just jumped in like head first. I didn't try and perfect my recipe. I didn't try and perfect like how my setup looked at the market, which I like a lot of people starting out feel like everything has to be so researched and so perfected. Just start. Like, you're not going to start if you don't just start. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm going to do this. Let's do it. And so that's really how it started. Is just grew up baking and cooking, and then I thought the name was super catchy, and I was like, let's just do this.
I love it. We had Mo Hassan, who's currently like a NFL free agent and played college football and everything, but he has an incredible foundation too, kind of similar to you in a sense. But he has a nonprofit that, long story short, feeds the homeless. We had him on season 2, and he talked about the same thing. Like, there was a point where, and he has a podcast too, and he was like, I just got to start it. He was like, I know the first episode is not going to be good, but I just need to start it so I can get good. And he said on the first episode, he even forgot to put record on the audio. So he didn't even have good audio at all. It was just like audio from the camera recording. It wasn't even actual audio. And he said, but to not let perfection prohibit your progress.
Wow, I love that.
So good. Don't let perfection prohibit your progress, because it's so true. So often we're like, oh, I want to do this, but it's not perfect, or the timing's not perfect, or I don't know how to be a graphic designer and make graphics, so I'll put on the Instagram and learn social media. But you were just like, full send, baby, full send. And for me, the word go, G-O, has been one of my favorite words ever. And it was actually my word of the year for 2 years in a row. And in those 2 years, I was doing my first internships. I was writing my book. I was publishing my podcast. I was publishing my book, like just so many new starts for me, my business, everything a couple of years ago. And in that, my whole saying behind go was following after in Matthew 28, where it's talking about the women at the tomb saw Jesus's body gone. And when the angel visited them, of course, they were freaked out. They were so frightened, but they ran full speed ahead because they knew they had a mission to accomplish and telling everyone that Jesus had risen from the dead. And then they also were just so excited to share it. And so for me, that was my whole thing. I was going to go with bold faith and blind faith. And that whether I was frightened or not, I'd run full speed ahead. And if I was afraid, I would still be all in. And that's so much of what being a business owner is. Like, we're trying to figure it out because we honestly have no idea what we're doing, but we're trying our best, and we're taking advice, we're taking suggestions, we're doing our research, but we're just going for it at the end of the day. And so I love that was the same for you, as I think it really is with anyone and everyone. But I got to ask too, because I know that, one, this is not a life we do alone, but also in the business, it helps so much to have some extra hands here and there. So did you ever have anyone helping you? Were you always a one-man band? What did that inside community look like, not just the cookie community?
Yes. Oh, I love that. The inside, the cookie crew. So yeah, honestly, a lot of it, the first 2 years was just me. And it was
Mm.
so overwhelming. Just trying to get everything done. That third year, fourth year? Yeah, our third year, we just celebrated year 4 last month. And so our third year is when I hired my first employee. And at first I was like, oh my goodness, like, am I gonna have enough work for her? She only wants to do a little bit. And then she's like, wait, I would like more hours. I was like, okay. And so just being able to, I think she averaged 30 hours a week. And
Wow.
so being able to like have someone right there helping me roll the dough, package orders, go to markets. That way I could go to more markets. So I could be at one Saturday morning and she could be at another one Saturday morning. And then my brother and sister would help a little bit. My sister, she was like, I don't like the smell of sugar. It's too much for me. I was like, please just help me. And so whenever I would have holidays, she and my brother would both come in and help me. And then when my then boyfriend moved down in 2020, because with COVID, we did long distance and we weren't sure with airports, and then to like leave the valley there's a border and we weren't sure if they were going to close the border as well. And so he moved down May of 2020, and after that he was always helping me. Like he would come over and help, and I would be like, please go home, it's like 2 a.m., like you have work tomorrow, like go home. He's like, not till you're going to bed and I know you're going home and you're done. And so he has been there every step of the way, so supportive. He has literally packaged over thousands and thousands of cookies. He calls himself the packaging department and was like, won't let anyone else. He loves to package everyone's orders and does it right every single time. And so, but yeah, so this year again is pretty much me just doing it on my own. And which was again a little transition, getting used to having someone helping me full time. Then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, it's all by myself, and relearning time management. But no, so I've been blessed with help here or there, but for the most part, it's honestly been again just full send, going it and being crazy and not sleeping much.
You got to get your husband in on some part-time work over there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So cool. Okay, tell me, I'm sure there are so many, and obviously paying for your college is definitely a benefit of it. But what has been your favorite part of doing cookies for college?
I think really forming the community, and
Mm.
just how humbling and exciting it has been to see how invested people are in the business, in my story, and the excitement. And so, especially with getting a brick and mortar, I was like, okay, what is this going to be like? And I was so shocked because we had a local blog down here and she posted about it. I was like, hey, can you just say, like, I have a picture of me in my pink jumpsuit, like jumping in front of jumping in front of location. I said, hey, do you mind sharing this and just explaining what it is so that people can become a little bit more aware of it? Because at that point, this year we've grown a lot. At that point in February or March, I think I was at like 1,200 followers, give or take. And so now we're at 25, almost 26. So we've grown a lot those past 6-ish months. And she posted it and my phone exploded. And I was so in awe and shocked. Like over 100,000 people saw it,
Wow.
and like over 5,000 shares, thousands of comment or hundreds. I can't remember. I may be exaggerating the comments, either hundreds or like a couple thousand comments. And just in that day received so many new followers and so much encouragement, like not one negative thing. It was like, we are so excited, we can't wait to support you, can we buy cookies now?
Oh,
And that's when it just got me so excited, because I was like, they believe in it, they see this goal. Because at first I remember people would laugh at me and they'd buy a cookie and they're like, well, here's a pencil. And I was like, hey, if everyone bought a cookie, I would sell out every single time. Every single time. Like every cookie adds up. Each one has a little purpose. And so just seeing the support and the community that has been grown through it and around it and all the different opportunities has been like so humbling and exciting. And then just again, seeing where God is working in it, where every time, again, I'm like, who am I to say no to God out of fear of failure? Because I was like, I shouldn't open this. It's going to be so expensive. How is this going to happen? And all these locations kept falling through, and something kept happening to where I landed on a location that's on a main street for a fraction of the cost it usually costs. They built out the entire thing for me for free, put in a bathroom, raised the ceilings, painted, electricity, new floors,
Wow.
to I just have to move in my equipment and build out like a front desk and some shelves. But again, just seeing in God's timing and when he was doing it is so crazy. But yeah, I'd say forming the cookie community has been my favorite.
So beautiful. I love too how even you mentioned just how, the guys would joke like, oh, here's a pencil, but you were like, every little bit counts. So even if you're like mocking me in the process, it's still going through it. And I think that's just so honorable too about like having faith in the little. Like, this is just one little cookie, but this is going to do big things. And how it's almost just like the walls of Jericho, like marching around 6 times to get to the 7th. Like, that's when the progress is going to come. And so it was just like one cookie after the next, after the next, after the next. And that was little bits of progress, but making so much purpose. So beautiful. But I know not everything is beautiful about running a business. So
Oh
talk to me on the flip side now. What do you think the hardest part has been?
my goodness. I would say like time management has been really challenging. And honestly, too, like not chasing the dollar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like satisfied with what your sales have been. And it's so easy to be like, when is enough is enough. Like I've had to get to the point where I would have to set a limit of how many cookies I would bring, because I'm super blessed and sell out. I would say at like 75% of the markets I go to, I'll sell out 30 minutes to an hour before it's over. And so not all the time, but I'd say a good 75%. And so I would just be overexerting myself. And because I was like, I have to make more money. The next market, I'm going to make more and bring in more. And then I realized to where I was losing my joy in it and losing like, it was to where like, I remember one time God really humbled me and I had a lot of leftover cookies. I didn't even sell out. I had a lot of cookies and I was like, okay, God, I know this is not me, because that's my weakness, is like taking pride in my work, but sometimes a little bit too much pride, and need to remember like God is the one who has blessed me with this and who is controlling this and has handed me in a way this responsibility, I feel like, to start blessing others. Like that's not me, that's God working through me and the community around me supporting that as well. And so time management has been key, not chasing the dollar. And then I think just being satisfied with where I'm at and not overlooking to the future. And but yeah, no, there's been lots of tears on the kitchen floor. There's been lots of breakdowns. It's honestly a big physical toll on your body too, because like when you start, you don't stop, because there's so much in the process of that. And I remember like my best season was also like by far my hardest season, because it was before, it was, I always get my years mixed up. I think it was the spring after my concussion. Yeah, because I was yeah. So I got my concussion fall of 2021, and spring of 2022 is when I did the rodeo down here.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna be prepared. And so I was up at school. I bought 3 huge Yeti ice chests. I mean, I have like a little like a little hatchback type of car. I laid all the seats down flat. I packed it full of ice. I had cookie dough in the athletic trainers freezer. I had it in our cafeteria freezer. And I was like, I'm going to be prepared. I will go down there and I'm just going to be baking, because I knew that this rodeo, you were at the rodeo from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So when was I going to make dough and bake? And so I was like, let me alleviate this part of this process. And 2 weeks before, or like 10 days before the rodeo started, I got the flu for the first time. And it was horrible. I mean, I lost 10 to 15 pounds. I was all the extremes symptoms, and I was in tears. I was like, I was trying to be prepared why am I sick? Am I going to miss out on this opportunity? Cause I've paid like over $700 to be there. Like the vendor fee was over $700. I had already been up late on top of school and everything. Getting dough, like our apartment fridge was full, our apartment freezer was full, campus freezers were full. And I was like, what is going on? And my mom actually had to come and pick me up. I was too weak and too sick to drive. And so we'll say this is like, I think she picked me up on a Saturday and the stock show was that Thursday. And so my mom came and picked me up Saturday, and this was like an 8-hour drive. So her and my brother came and picked me up, loaded all the ice chests in their car with the cookie dough, packed it full of ice. And then we got home and we moved everything into our personal deep freezers. And I basically slept Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And Wednesday, we went to the doctor to make sure, like, okay, it's not COVID, it's the flu. You're not contagious anymore. And Wednesday night, jumped in, started baking and getting things ready. And Thursday, through the following Thursday and Sunday, it was 10 straight days. And I averaged, in those 10 days, I worked 190 hours.
Oh my goodness.
190 hours in those 10 days. And so such an incredible high of like, oh my goodness, people are loving this and so excited. The exposure was great. I was selling out by 5 o'clock. Like I physically could not make anymore. Like I was selling out by 5, 6, 7 o'clock at the latest. And so it wasn't even peak time yet. And was so excited and loved it. Like physically, it took a toll. I mean, I had to soak my feet and my legs every night. And it got to like the last 2 days, I couldn't even put on my boots because my feet and my ankles were so swollen from standing on concrete for 19 hours over a week in a row. And so that's like the part that people don't see is like they see you smiling in a cute dress and like selling cookies as they're like emotionally dying on the inside. Like, I just need food and sleep. I just need food and sleep. And it was just so crazy because I just remember like, what am I doing? But at the same time, so energized. It was such a great experience, but also so many tears. I was, again, the blessing of having my boyfriend was down, well, then fiance. So my fiance was here. He was helping me every night on top of working as well because he had a job. Then one of my friends, she would come over and she was helping me because I was bringing over 100 dozen cookies a day. 100 dozen cookies a day and selling out and could not keep up. And that is a lot of cookies for people who can't do math. Cookies. And yeah, so that was just, I guess, knowing my limits. Back to your question, the hardest part was recognizing and accepting my limits, knowing I'm not a machine and I can't always be perfect, managing my time well, and then not chasing the dollars and remembering the purpose behind this and the reason behind this is not necessarily to become a millionaire, but who else can I bless through each cookie sold?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think I relate to a lot of that too. And this, I mean, this could be a whole different podcast, but for me, the verse from, I wrote it down here, Matthew 16:26, that says, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul?" That's been a reminder, a convicting reminder for me this past year too, of just for like striving and pushing myself and getting no sleep and this and that and the other. And then it's like, at the end of the day, for what? Like, for what? I'm losing friendships. I'm not spending time with my family. Like, my attitude's not the best because I'm exhausted, like whatever it might be. And it's like, what am I gaining? Like you said, like another couple $100 from this, like, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? And it's like, no, it's not worth it at the end of the day. And for me, like a big part of my year this year has been rest and prepare have been my 2 words. And I mentioned how go used to be my word. And so I've joked that this year for me has kind of been like go to let go. And so it used to be like strive, like work, grind, all the things, which was great in that season that I was in. But now it's like, all right, you've put your work forth. Now it's time to trust God a little bit more. And to know that like, if God's not in it, I don't want it. If he's in it, I believe he's going to bring it to me. And if he's not bringing anything at the current moment, then I'm just going to steward what he's already brought, because that in and of itself is already going to be an answered prayer. And one of my friends, I was at a wedding with her, And it was one of those like church weddings. So everyone kind of knew everyone in the church and everyone was there together. And so we were all sitting at a table and she was just catching up with me and asking how life was and all the things. And she was like, do you ever sleep? Like, do you ever rest? And I'm like, no, of course not. Obviously not. And she told me, she was like, Cam, like you're doing all these amazing things and like accomplishing so much, but how much more amazing will it be when you're not trying that hard and God still brings the blessing? Because then you know it's from God and it's not on you. Like, sure, you're going to work hard, but like, then you really know it's from God. And I'm like, oh, that's really convicting. Okay, like noted. Yeah, like to the heart. And so, yeah, I just think that's beautiful. It's hard. It takes such a balance running a business because you do want to just grow and thrive and do all the things, and it's with the most pure intentions, but man, it can take over your life and it can rule your world, where God of course should be the thing ruling your world. So it's definitely a big balance, but you're killing it. You're doing a great job and you're impacting so many people with it all. So as you look to the future, you got your brick and mortar coming. You mentioned it's going to be a bakery, so I assume you're going to have more than cookies there, correct?
Actually gonna stick with just cookies.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be like Canes or I think even In and Out or Five Guys burgers. Like they just know what they specialize in.
Yeah.
So like a little sneak peek when this comes out, if we haven't done it yet. I'm not sure it's coming out in September, October, but we're figuring out how to do favorite desserts as cookies. And so instead of cake in a jar, we're gonna do cookies in a jar. And then I'm looking at different ways to do like deep dish pizza pies. And so you can do like a cookie dough layer and then you can fill it with different things. And then also, I'm just still trying to work on the name, but instead of cupcakes, basically like cookie cups. And
Mhm.
so it's made in like muffin tins, like a cookie cupcake, and you fill it and you put buttercream on top of it.
Oh,
And so just finding different ways to transform your traditional cookie, but maintain what we specialize in. And so it's gonna be just cookies.
amazing. I love that. Okay. Because I was going to ask, I was like, where will you have a specific cookies for college section of just your cookies, but it'll still kind of be the same thing. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it'll just be just cookies for college and just cookies. And I was going back and forth on adding in cakes and decorated cookies or pies and all that other fun stuff. But it also comes with the business side of it, a lot more inventory, a lot more accounting, and keeping up with all of that. So I decided I'm just going to stick with what I know, stick with what I'm good at, and just keep on making cookies. And it's in the name and just go with it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Okay, Madelynn. Well, I just so appreciate you coming on today and sharing so much, not only about your cookies and your business, but your life too. And we've touched on it a lot already. We both already have similar stories. So I know we have some similar thoughts probably with this as well. But I got to ask you, like I ask every single person on the show, is what does play where your feet are mean to you?
Oh, I've been thinking about this all day. Like I was even whiteboard today at my funny fact, my first job. I got my first part-time job. And so I work from 8 to 2 at this great local I guess now it's a company. It's called Frontier Direct Care. And so they're changing the healthcare system. And so I'm helping them out. Little shout out. And so I'm helping them get things organized and just helping manage tasks and stuff like that. I was writing on the whiteboard today and I was like, questions for the podcast, play where your feet are. I'm like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then I finally think, I was like, what it means to me is to be present in that moment. And so, in a world that is so fast paced and so distracted, to just be present in that time period. And we kind of touched on that with singleness and with engagement or dating and marriage. Like, be excited and present where you are. With basketball, oh, how I miss it so much, and how I was always looking forward to like the next game or the next season or more opportunities, and how I wish I'd just been more present in that one practice or in that one game, because you never know when it is going to be your last game or your last practice. And so I was looking at different verses. So I knew there's different ones, but I wasn't super familiar with this. And in Matthew 6, it talks about like, don't be anxious for tomorrow. Don't be anxious for tomorrow. In Philippians, Paul talks about forget what is behind and look forward to what God has prepared for you. And I'm paraphrasing, but and like for especially when I was thinking about what Paul's saying, like don't look at your past. Like he had a really rough past, and so going from like his lifestyle to where he went from killing all these Christians to becoming a Christian and then spreading the word and being martyred for Christianity is just so crazy. And here he is saying, don't look back on your past mistakes. Don't look back where you came from. Look forward in excitement for the prize that is coming. But at the same time, like, don't be anxious for tomorrow. Be present where you're at, and just be 100% where you are, all in, enjoying it, because you only have 24 hours in a day and then it's gone. And so then you have the next day to look forward to and see what you're going to accomplish. But just be excited for the season that you're in is what I would say.
Beautiful. And I love that you mentioned Paul. Paul is my man. I love that guy so much. He is like, besides obviously Jesus, like he is the one person when I get to heaven, I'm going to be like, Paul, we got to talk. Like I want to learn so much. Yes.
Second guest. Jesus will be your first guest. And you're like, where's Paul? Paul on my podcast.
Yes. Oh my, I'll just do it strictly with him. He'll be my co-host. We'll just do the podcast with Paul. It already has a good name to it. Like easy. Oh my goodness. But yes, seriously, he's so good, because I think that his entire life is like the perfect example of playing where your feet are. Because as you mentioned, it's not looking back at the crazy past that he had. It's also showcasing how God will use you no matter what you are about or you've done or you've thought or whatever. Like there's no shame, there's no condemnation in Christ. And again, it's play where your feet are, and how Paul had this crazy past, but God's like, no, I'm going to use you. So like, all right, let's go. You're blinded. You're now no longer Saul, you're Paul, and you're running full speed with me. Like he will use anyone and everyone. And then even further, when he was being persecuted so much for now preaching the gospel, he's literally sitting in chains, writing most of what we know of the New Testament, but he's in chains, in prison, in sludge, like worst point, quote unquote, of his life. But he's still impacting so many. So again, it's playing where his feet are. Like it doesn't matter that his platform is prison. He's still going to preach from prison. And he just took advantage. He never just took up space. He could have easily been a story where he was in prison and we thought that was awful. And it was like, dang, Paul like preached the gospel. Then he was put in prison and like end of story. That could have been it. And we probably still would have praised him for it. But the fact that he took the extra step in prison and kept praising, kept preaching, like, I just love him. I love the guy. I think he's the perfect example of playing where your feet are. So again, we already said our stories are so connected. So I just, obviously you would also mention him. It just makes sense. But so many people I know are going to want to play where their feet are, especially seeing that you're doing it, how you're doing it, how much fun you have doing it. You said it already, food brings you joy and you're making a purpose with it. Like food brings all of us joy. So I think just thinking like, hey, what brings you joy? How can you make purpose out of that now? That's exactly what God is asking you to do. Like he's gifted you with an amazing personality, passion, and everything about it. So how can you use that now for his purpose? And that's what you've done. And that's how you've played where your feet are. So what's your advice for others who want to play where their feet are, but maybe aren't quite sure where to go first?
Well, first and foremost, I would just say, listen to God. I feel like a lot of times we call it often our gut feeling. And so I feel like that's the Holy Spirit tugging at us a little bit. And I feel like, again, it just ties back to like, don't let fear of failing make you tell God no, because you're like, I'm not adequate, right? Like Moses told God no so many times. I can't go speak. I'm not adequate to speak. Jonah definitely told God no and said, peace out.
He ran the opposite. Yep.
Like, I'm not going forward, I'm going backwards. And God was like, that's what you think. And so like you see so many stories in the Bible of like people telling God no, and it does not end up very well for them. It's all for his purpose, all for his glory, and all part of his plan, but it could be so much more enjoyable if you just tell God yes. So I think really just if you're wrestling with something, whether that be going to college as you're transitioning from high school to college, should I try out this new business? Do I really want to get this job? I feel like so many times we may wrestle with this because we're really wrestling with ourselves, and just really sit and listen. And God's going to tell you, you're going to have a sense of peace, like, especially once you decide if that's part of God's plan. Like every time I've wrestled, every time I've been anxious, whenever I finally just listen and stop thinking about, like, what is my plan? What if I mess up? What if I make the wrong decision? And to just listen and be present and be like, God, what do you want me to do? How can you use me? And so I think just again going back to being present in that moment, but really listening to God and just telling him yes.
Beautiful. I love it so much. Oh my goodness. I love your whole story. I love your advice. I loved everything about all that. And again, I think it goes back to what you touched on in the beginning of just like, who am I to say no to God? God has it all under control. Don't be anxious about tomorrow. Don't look back at your past. Just know that he's got it. And so do whatever you can in the position that you're in to make that impact and trust him all the way. Madelynn, so beautiful. Thank you for hopping on the show today. It was so fun getting to know you further. I cannot wait to come to South Texas and go to your bakery
I
and
would
get
love
those cookies.
that. I'm gonna be like, hopefully, like once we can open the bakery too, we'll be able to start shipping. And so that way we can be commercial. So you may not even have to come to South Texas to get cookies. I can just ship you some.
Beautiful. I'll still come visit for sure, but I will definitely be ordering.
We have a great beach, so it's worth the trip.
Say less. I will book my ticket now, today. Amazing. Okay. Well, just because the podcast is ending, I say this every time too, doesn't mean that our relationship with you should be ending. So how can we best follow, support, buy, whatever it is? How can we get these cookies? How can we keep contributing to Cookies for College and stay caught up with you? This is plug it all now. Plug it all now.
Yeah, so we have our Instagram and Facebook. It's cookies, the number 4, college, and we have RGV at the end, just to represent the Rio Grande Valley. And then we also have our website, same thing, www.cookiesforcollege.com. And so it's the only one with that name as well. So you just Google it, we'll pop up. So our website's closed right now because again, we're focusing on the bakery, but hopefully whenever you're listening to this, we'll be able to be shipping cookies to y'all. So just go check it out. If not, we'll for sure have all of our new merch. And so I'm actually wearing one of the shirts today. And so it's our community shirt. And so we have shirts, we have cute tote bags, and then we also again, Instagram is crazy. And when Maya posted about her Jamaica trip, that's how I connected with her, and I sent her cookies to take with her to Jamaica. And found another girl sent candles. And so I was like, I've been looking for someone to do candles. And so through this connection, I have the best, or it's Tiffany Candle Co. And she did an incredible job, customized 3 scents for me, paraben free, soy, wood wick, so good. And we have cookie dough, snickerdoodle, and Mexican vanilla scented candles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so even if you can't buy cookies, or if you don't like cookies, check out our candles and our shirts and our tote bags.
Okay, so is that on? I know you said your website's shut down right now with cookies. Is merch also shut down right now?
I haven't uploaded it yet, so I just got it all in, and so working on pictures and getting all uploaded, and I'll post about it. And so yeah, I'm super excited.
Yay! I'm literally like already on your website looking for those candles.
Yeah, they're not on there yet, but oh my gosh, she did an incredible job. I can't wait for you to smell them if you end up getting one.
Yes, I love cozy candles so much. So I'm gonna buy all 3. The minute you put them up, you let me know. I will be your first purchase. I will get all 3 of them. So cool. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then when does your I know, like, obviously the day might shift as things happen when you're trying to open a store, but when is your goal for the store opening?
Really hoping the first weekend of October. So I believe
Okay.
Saturday the 7th is the first Saturday. And so that is our goal. That's when we're hoping to open, just because it's our big downtown market during that time, and there'll be a lot of foot traffic, and the weather, Lord willing, will be a lot nicer than 100+ degrees outside. And
Very
so
true.
we're hoping the first weekend of October, but if not, then it'll be the first weekend of November.
Amazing. That's soon.
Yes, yeah, it's crazy. So excited,
Oh,
scary, and exciting.
oh my goodness, the best. How cool. Okay, so if you guys are in Texas or remotely in the area or want to travel, make sure you guys go check out her store in person. And if you are further away, make sure you check out her website, her Instagram at the very least. I know from a business owner myself, a follow, a like, a comment, a share goes a long way. She's already talked about it, how we've gotten connected, how she found her candle person, sending cookies to Jamaica, all the things. Social media is such a powerful tool that we can use for good. So you guys make sure you're following Madelynn and all she's doing. We'll make sure we plug everything below too in the description. We'll put down all the links of the website, the Instagram, all the things. We'll tag her in all the social media posts so you guys can see her and follow her there. But Madelynn, thank you so much for hopping on the episode today, and welcome to the Play Where You Feed Our Family.
Thank you so much for having me. I've always wanted to be on a podcast, so I was literally freaking out and fangirling, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be on a podcast. And so I was like, dream accomplished, check right there. I was on a podcast. So super honored, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, of course. I mean, this was all about you, and you've earned it and you deserve the platform. So just be encouraged by it. Hopefully this will bring you more followers or customers or connections or friends at the very least. But we are here to support you and in your corner. And maybe one day we can do a little like Play Where Your Feet Are collab or flavor, or who knows what the future will bring. But we'll do something in the future. We'll definitely. But love you so much. I love your story. I love your heart and your passion for it all. But I'm going to give you the mic one last time for any final thoughts, words, tidbits. What's your favorite coffee? Something motivational. Like, you can take it. You have the mic. Any last gold nuggets from you, girl?
All right. Well, I am a coffee fanatic. And so we'll just go with, I was like, I can answer that one quick and easy. And my favorite coffee is either an iced lavender latte with oat milk, or at home, I love to use my Nespresso machine. And so I make a maple cinnamon latte, and that's my second.
Ooh. I don't even like coffee, and that sounds amazing. So
you should try it. You should try it.
So when I come to Texas, I'll have coffee and cookies with you.
And cookies. You will. Yes.
Amazing. Madelynn, you are fabulous. I loved having you on the show today. Y'all check everything out. Check out Cookies for College. Stay in touch. Follow her. All the things. Order your merch and stay following her life and all she does, because it's incredible and it's so fun. Madelynn, thanks again for hopping on, and we cannot wait to see the amazing things that you do.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Bye, girl.
Bye.
Such a special episode, and what a wrap to season 3. Y'all, thank you so much for listening to the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast. If you want to stay connected with us or Madelynn, feel free to check everything below. It's all linked in the description, whether it's her cookies, whether it is the podcast, whether it's a book, whatever it might be, it's all linked below. Thank you so much for being an incredible listener and a loyal listener to the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast. Y'all, so much to come in season 4. My boyfriend joins the podcast. My friends join the podcast. Incredible people join the podcast. Y'all, it's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait for season 4. But that's a wrap on season 3. Thanks so much for your support, your love. And as always, be blessed and play where your feet are. Love you guys.